Welcome to Finding Alignment, where we will be having conversations on business, wellness, and relationships for living a more aligned life. I'm your host, Megan Romine, real estate professional, lifelong learner, and speaker. Each time I'm in the studio, I sit down with entrepreneurs, best-selling authors, and everyday high achievers to unpack the habits, boundaries, and mindset shifts that fuel sustainable success. Whether you're growing a business, nurturing relationships, or simply protecting your peace, this show is here to help you take one aligned step forward. Let's dive in. All right, guys, today we're so excited. We have Valentine Thomas, and you've probably already heard of Valentine. So in my opinion, she's probably one of the most famous spearfisher women in the world. She's an author. She is so multidimensional. Her story is amazing. She started off as an attorney and then went into spearfishing. Valentine, thank you so much for having us today and for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Of course. So share with us a little bit. I know your story and your background, but can you share with us how you started and what really inspired you to really move into spearfishing and give us a little bit of a background?
Yeah, of course. So I'm from Montreal, Canada. So I was trained as a lawyer, and then I moved to London in 2010. About within my first year, I made friends with a group of people, and they were all into spearfishing. So it was such a pure, weird coincidence, and then they kind of dragged me into it, and I tried it, and I ended up liking it. And probably about 6 years later, that's kind of what I made in my job, I guess. I created a job that would include spearfishing.
Amazing. And then now, whenever you did that, whenever you went away from the attorney space and like going from London to spearfishing, that's like complete night and day difference. Like, what did that feel like? Did it feel like it was something that came natural to you? Or were you like, wow, I'm kind of scared of making this career change? I mean, what was that like?
So there was a weird transition to it because my life in London was very fast-paced in the sense that I was working in a hedge fund. I was going on holiday in Ibiza, and there was a lot of partying. There was a lot of, it was working to like, I had a nice car. I was always going to a nice restaurant. It was really about like building this life for myself that I was doing. And then when I quit everything, I kind of found myself in a complete different lifestyle. And the more I did that, the less I was connecting with my life in London. It's like when I was finding myself at a dinner, let's say at Nobu with a bunch of my friends, and people were talking about different things. And I was like, oh yeah. Like last week I went to spend a month in Africa, and then we went like camping in this place and we caught big fish, and people were like, oh, cool. And I just didn't feel that I was just really connecting with my old life anymore. So that's kind of what pushed me to take the jump. But yeah, that kind of reverted later. I found a balance now. There's a balance between camping in a bush in the middle of nowhere and, still be able to enjoy a nice holiday too.
Yeah, right. Wow. You know what? I didn't know that you were working with hedge funds. So I just think it's very admirable that you were in that world and very, obviously finance driven, and something inside of you was like, you know what? I want to go towards something that feels more authentic to me. Not saying, listen, people that have hedge funds and run hedge funds, I think that's phenomenal and that's what they're meant to do. But it sounds like in your specific case, you thought that that was the path that you were going to go on, but then you just ended up finding something that became more authentic to your vision.
True. And I think that, I've always been success driven. So I've always, let's say that's also I've been raised, as my parents were like, that's fine. If you want to be a plumber, just be the world's best damn plumber that there is. And it's fine. It's the mentality that I have. And that's what made me build a career around spearfishing, which is not a thing. I had to work really hard, and then I managed to make a really good living out of thin air, pretty much. I had a hobby.
No, that's such a good point. And for anyone, whatever you decide that you're going to do, just be the best that you can be and do the best that you can. And it's okay in life, I think, for people to remember that sometimes you set off on a certain path and sometimes you change, and sometimes you pivot, and maybe you don't look at you don't look at it as a failure. Maybe there's something else out there that is a larger picture, and that's going to give you like a whole different life, because then you went from London and hedge fund to traveling around the world and spearfishing. And I remember when I started spearfishing, and because I had known about you and like heard about you, we have mutual friends. But I feel like when we started spearfishing, like it wasn't a thing. Like it wasn't really on social media. Like they didn't even have women's spearfishing wetsuits whenever I first started spearfishing.
Yes, that's why I still do custom wetsuits to this day.
And then tell me a little bit about the progression. So you started spearfishing, you started traveling, you started making it a very successful career. You're very well known in the space of what you do. And then you're also an author now, and there's other things that you're working on. What does that look like? Can you tell us about that?
So it was basically about, I mean, this is going to probably sound cliche, but it was a lot about the hustling behind it. It's so my career got kicked off because the Daily Mail decided to make an article about me. And this article got picked up by under 200 media outlets around the world. And that kind of gave me a jump start to do what I do. And it was a terrible article, awful. It was a 2 hours conversation. It took literally one sentence and turned it into this big thing, which was about like how I was a victim of misogyny in the spearfishing industry. And I was like, whoa. I was like, this is not at all what I said. I mean, I did say at some point, I said that, yeah, being a woman is a double-edged sword when it comes to this industry for sure. And then anyways, but I guess that's the prime example of no bad publicity is, or what's it saying? That
no bad publicity. Any type of publicity can be good publicity.
I can't remember what it's saying, but whatever. So yeah, so then it gave me kind of things it gave me a bunch of followers. I think I got 40 or 50,000 overnight, and I wasn't being an influencer, which is a terrible word. It's not really what I was planning on doing, and then all of a sudden, I guess I became one, and it was at the time where social media was, when it was like becoming actually an influencer, it was becoming a thing. So I guess that's kind of why my timing was also really good. And I grabbed the opportunity.
And then you started to do, and you've always done the cooking, but then you really started to pick up on like with your cookbook and with cooking. And I don't know, like for me personally, when I was spearfishing, one of my favorite parts about it was, bringing it to the table and bringing people together over food that was, sustainably caught. And that was like one of the most fulfilling aspects for me from spearfishing. And I don't have your cooking skills, though. I definitely need to get some of your cookbooks. But like, tell us, like, do you just like love cooking? Like, what is it that kind of made you also veer into that, or was that always in your ethos?
So I love eating. So that's how I loved cooking. I started cooking when I was about 4. I've been cooking my whole life. I'm French, so I'm coming from a family who cooked a lot. Her like food is very centric in our lives, and it's just when I started really getting into it was in college. So I was just spending all of my money that I had and making dinners for my friends who couldn't give less of a shit of what I was doing. They were like, can we just get shit-faced and go get a freaking kebab? I was like, no, I'm making chica lamb with blah, blah, blah. And they were like, what the fuck? Anyways, but I like to eat well. So that's when I was on my own for the first time. So it's living in college. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to start upping my game because I want to eat well. And if I want to eat well, I can't afford to go to a restaurant. So I'm going to have to make it myself.
Amazing. And like, I see some of the things that you're making and I'm like, that is so incredible. And with spearfishing, as we know, it's a very male dominated sport. And, I found for me, when I was first getting into spearfishing, it can be a little bit intimidating, but something that I'd like to share with the audience with spearfishing, and everyone can be very competitive, and I think that's great. But I also think the safety factor of it, I shared with you before coming on, a project I'm working on is a memorial reef for someone that was very close to me, a world champion diver. And sadly, he had passed away from shallow water blackout. And it's something that I think that divers could be like more mindful of? And like, what do you see like in the industry? Do you see that people are being more mindful of that, or do you think it's something that people really need to focus on spreading the awareness around the safety aspect?
It's sadly, it's the thing is, beginner divers are going to be more safe. And we see a trend in the last 10 years that the people we lost are not beginners. They're very advanced divers. They're people who know what they're doing. And the problem is, once you, and I'm absolutely guilty of that. And I did that to multiple occasions. And I came close to dying, I think about twice, two times, 2 or 3 times. And those 3 times I disregarded basic safety rules. And I think that is a thing that when you become really good, it's natural to become a little bit more cocky. And and I don't mean cocky in a way, like in a sense, like I know what I'm doing. I don't need, like, it's fine if my friend is chasing a grouper half of a mile that way. Like I'm good. It's only 20 feet of water. It's only 50 feet of water. I'm a good diver, but it's sadly, you just never know what can happen to your body at what time. I got attacked by a tiger shark in 12 feet of water, and my buddy was half a mile away, and I could have died that day, and I came very close to it, and I did a shallow water blackout because I didn't braid up enough. Basic mistake, because I saw a big fish at the bottom at 90 feet, and I went down. And it's, if my buddy wasn't watching me, which he was, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. But it's where we get cocky, we get too confident, and we get too focused on the fish.
Yeah, I mean, I also too think that as you get to more professional levels sometimes, that even the professionals can be like, oh, well, like my buddy's going to be fine because, like it's okay. And I think it's just like, it's good to remember about, your basic safety. And then also newer divers, I find that, newer divers, even if they're going through like their level 1, they're still kind of like not aware that that's something, that can actually happen. So, what we're doing now is we're trying to bring more awareness to shallow water blackout. And then also we're working on the first proposed artificial reef on Palm Beach Island. So we're going to have an event on November 20th. And we just want to keep bringing awareness, and, people enjoy the sport and like enjoy it safely, because as you know, social media, and this is just my thought process, I think that social media really blew up the spearfishing world. I mean, before it wasn't so mainstream. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think that people are doing more things to get a photo out of it or a video out of it, or because they think that it's going to make them interesting to other people. And it's spearfishing is just not about that. But I'm not going to lie here. Sometimes I've done things that like I wouldn't do that otherwise, but hey, I get a super cool photo out of it, so I'm going to end up doing it. And I think spearfishing is part of that. But the funny thing about that is that a lot of people think, oh, this looks so cool. I'm going to grab my spear gun. I'm going to do it. I'm going to fin down, grab my fish, and come back to the surface. And I brought guys with me that were big alpha males. Oh, yeah, this is going to be awesome. We're going to catch a fish. And they all were petrified in the water. First of all, like, I dive off Tampa, right? Water is murky. There's sharks everywhere. It's not fun. And then you're super far away from shore. You can't see shore, and you throw them in the water, and they're not having a good time. They don't mean like catching fish either. And they just like, what is this shit? Like, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, it's, much easier said than done, right? And like, I mean, for you, you've been doing this like for so long, and like you learn so much along the way. And I think like the people that you meet, right? Like that person that was very close to me, like I met them like through diving. And I think the community that you can find. And one thing that I love about like your presence and your brand is that you stick up for what you believe in. Like you will put on social media what you believe in. And I think that in general, listen, not everyone has to agree with everyone. And that's okay. And I think it's just like very commendable for you, as a female entrepreneur, business owner, author, that you're out there like advocating for like what you believe in.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say it's doing me that many favors though, because I'm very authentic to my lifestyle and who I am. And the thing is, I have a very feminine side. I have an incredible collection of shoes that you would love, by the way.
I'm sure I would love that.
And clothes and handbags. And I like to dress up. I like to look good. I like to take care of myself. And at the other end, yeah, I'm going to gut a fish and I'm going to bite a nut tippers with my teeth. And I'm going to just do I'm not, and when it comes to, let's say, the outdoor industry, I get told a lot like, oh, like, you too girly, like, for sure you're fake, this and that. And I'm like, okay. And then on the outside, more mainstream company, more girly company, like, let's say Revolver never hire me. You know what I mean? It's just, I just don't fit in any boxes. I'm kind of in the middle and I just don't fit anybody's frame. So let's see what that takes me, but I refuse to get out of it.
Well, I'm friends with the guy that runs one of the largest seafood distributors in the United States, seafood distributor and wholesaler. And I was thinking, I don't know if there could be any type of synergy, but if you guys could connect and if there's something, that can be done because you're so good with the advocacy and like really trying to make a difference in the world. So I don't know, I'd love to like make that introduction and see what happens if that's something that you'd be open to.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
What do you think, in your opinion, based on everything that you know, what do you think it would take to help make a difference in the world when it comes to some of like the conservation efforts? Do you think that it's, small little things? Do you think there's one large thing or any kind of laws that could be changed? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that people need to be realistic. I think that the biggest problem is that people are setting expectations that cannot be met. It's so by example, here's some things that we need to consider. It's not everybody that can pay a nice, really sustainable fish that's going to be $39 a pound. That's just not a thing. And it's you also have to think that the world has to cater to people who Susan, who lives in Nebraska, has 4 kids and single mother. She's allowed to eat fish too, and we need to find a way to make it available to her. So this is the type of thing that we need to take under consideration, and there is a lot of beautiful work being made, and there is a lot of differences being made. There's a lot of fisheries who bounce back. California is a great example of that, and yeah, and if people listening are wondering like, what can I buy? Anything that's been harvested in the U.S. is normally a good option. The U.S. is the number 1 country when it comes to sustainable seafood.
Amazing. I think that's a great point because I think people can kind of like get lost in like translation of, oh, like what do I buy or like what does it mean? But you're well known in the industry, and I think you using your voice, but also I like have to share like, I've experienced it in my life too. Like no good deed goes unpunished, So sometimes you can like use your voice and like you have to really be strong and you get a lot of pushback sometimes, but I think it's being authentic to yourself. And I'm sure that you've experienced that being out in the public eye.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure. I think the vegan movement is slowing down. I think they are realizing, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I think they're realizing that a lot of people just won't eat it. And it's that meat is actually not the evil that it's been portrayed to be in the last years. And I could tell you the same about farm fish too. There's good farm fish, there's bad farm fish, and it's just people need to focus on their health and the fact that there are a lot of options out there, especially in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. When was the last time that you were in Florida? Has it been a while?
Last week.
Oh, you were in last week?
Last week.
On the West Coast?
A little bit before. I was there for the grouper season.
Ah, nice. How was it? How'd you do?
I was supposed to dive for 4 days, and because of the wind, I only got to dive half a day.
And then
but it's fine. I brought back 50 pounds of fish, so that's good.
50 pounds of fish. That's amazing.
Oh, I wanted a mission. I was like, you animal, you're coming in the boat.
Oh my gosh. I hope that one day we can get in the water. For me, I haven't, since what had happened, I have not gotten back in the water since that person had passed away. And I know that person would really want me to. And, it was that's how I created Mermaid Realtor. That's how I created my real estate business, my brand. And I loved it so much. But when you go through something like that, it's not as easy as just like getting back in the water. So I hope one day I can get back out there. Maybe we can go diving together.
Yeah, I'd love that.
That would be amazing. And then, so in your life, and congratulations, you've gotten married, you have a beautiful little girl now. And can you talk a little bit about like your shift in life, being married, having a baby? Can you share with us about that?
Yeah, it's my God. I lived so many lives that but I think it's something I like it because as a person I evolved a lot through the years, and I always managed to reshape my life in a way that was fitting to me and the person I was becoming. And this is, in the last couple of years or so before I actually met my husband, I was feeling like I was over to travel. I spent 6-7 years of traveling the world. I've done some extraordinary things, experiences, adventures, and I got to travel the world on my own. And I was longing for a time home. I was longing for a little bit more downtime and things like that. And it's like that feeling when you go home after a long day of work and you sit on your couch. I was like, I kind of want that.
Yeah, so maybe just like a little bit you had stability, but like a different type of stability. Maybe like having like
Exactly.
a home and like a family life, right?
Exactly. And it was, it became out of control. I was at home maybe 2-3 days out of the month. I was just traveling and working and working and working. And it was kind of hard. And then now I'm in a different stage of adaptation. Uh, like when my friends call me, like, oh, like the groupers are popping, come spearfish. And I'm like, I have a baby. I can't do that.
Was it challenging to get back in the water like after having her? Like did you notice any differences or did your body have to adjust or was it just like riding a bike?
No, it was pretty much like riding a bike for sure. I keep her in mind underwater, so I wouldn't push myself maybe to limits that I did before
Yeah,
because
that makes
now I have
sense.
somebody to think about for sure. But it's other than that, I'm really happy. I really want, for me, it was really important to stay who I was and not just become a mother. And I'm very lucky that I married a guy who also has a passion.
But he has like the car stuff too. Like I love all the Porsches and all of that.
Yes,
I love it.
he's
That's like my favorite. You guys have
I
like
mean,
some of the coolest
cars.
cars.
Oh yeah, he has a lot of cars, but he's a car nerd is a massive understatement. Uh, and he's super into surfing too and snowboarding, so he has a lot of hobbies, which I think that I found it really hard in the past to date people who didn't have their own thing because then there's always a jealousy that builds up or a lack of understanding of like why my partner wants to go do their thing all the time, and it's just yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I think too, like sometimes people think like, oh, well, I need like the exact same hobbies or I need to be in the exact same like group as like, my significant other. But I think it's so important and so healthy for there to be two independent people that are like merging their lives together, but like, have outside friends, have outside hobbies. I think that's healthy. I think it's important.
Especially if your partner has one.
Yes.
Because it's like I mean I took him with me a couple of times and he liked it, and he took me surfing a couple of times and I was like, yeah, I liked it, but it's not, I like the fact that when I spearfish, I'm in water, I'm doing my thing, like I don't want to have to drag somebody and explain that I'm a terrible teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I'm like, let's figure it out.
that totally makes sense. And how did you meet your husband? Did you meet him through mutual friends?
So yes, and I was just, my landlord sold my house in St. Pete. So I put everything in storage and I was just wondering what am I gonna do next? My book was coming out. So I'm like, do I buy a house? Do I buy a house on my own? Do I wait till I meet somebody?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I don't know. And like, I don't want to mow my lawn on a Saturday afternoon on my own. Like that sounds not too good.
Yes.
And then my book was coming out. So I thought, you know what? It's the winter. I won't be able to dive anyways. I'll go to Austin for 3 months. And my friend has the quesita, and they were like, just take it and just stay there if you want. So it's like, you know what? It's cool. It's the winter. I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to have a great time, and I'll come back and I'll figure out what I do. And 4 days I got to Austin. I went to a dinner and I asked my friend, I was like, she's 21. And I was like, hey, do you have any friends my age? And she was like, no, not really. So I've got the one guy that could be good, I guess. I was like, okay, well, does he hang out with you? Because if he hangs out with 21-year-old, that he's kind of a creep. But she said no. So I was like, okay, perfect. And then she made the introduction, and he was leaving for Nicaragua, and I was leaving for the Bahamas the following day. And we texted for 2 weeks every day, and we ended up having conversation really late at night. And he picked me up from the airport. It was the first time I saw him.
Do you feel like you knew rather quickly?
Yes. I moved in within 2 weeks.
That's amazing.
Well, he asked me to move in.
You're like, hey, I have my bags. This is perfect
exactly.
timing.
Like, oh, hey, no, on my bag, you don't mind that.
And a question I would have is for anyone in our audience listening, if there is someone, let's say that they have a level of success and maybe they don't feel like it's in alignment with what they're looking to do, regardless of what age they are, right? They could be younger, they could be older. What kind of advice and encouragement would you give someone if they're looking to make such a large change in their life towards something that is more authentic to them?
So I think that the first step with that is be realistic with your expectations. And the type of person you are. If you're somebody with a very strong work ethic, then starting a company will be something for you. And if you're being real with yourself, and on Saturday afternoon, you kind of want to sit on the couch and you're tired and you want to go to gym or watch Netflix and stuff like that, then it may not be for you. And it's okay. It's all good. And that's the first thing. And also when it comes to stability of income, like you have to be willing to lose some things to potentially gain some. And sometimes I got paid $20,000 to go to French Polynesia and sit on my ass and dive with dolphins and sharks. And it was the most incredible things that I did. And I would have never done that in an office. But there's some times also, and I was like, shit, am I going to pay rent next month? I have no idea.
I think
you have to be willing to put up with that.
Sacrifice. I think, and I think that's such a great thing that you're stating about be realistic with your expectations, right? If you're making $1 million a year and you're like, hey, I'm going to make a shift, and like, you got to know, like, hey, if you're going to build another business or something, like you might not make that much money. You might actually lose money for a little while. And,
exactly.
You know, and that
you're going to get in with the bullshit, like 4-hour work week and you're going to build an empire. That's not going to happen.
Right? Realistic expectations. And then what were some of the things, like, if you ever found yourself in one of those times where you're like, oh, wow, like, you know, well, when's coming up next time? Or like, you know, what's next? Maybe feeling a little bit of uncertainty. Was there any kind of mindset that you had or any kind of shift that you would like remind yourself of that would help you through the process?
For me, it was a big part of letting go of, because I kind of reached that in London in the sense of like, I had a brand new car and then I had a nice apartment, and like, it's like I was living this lifestyle already. So it's not like I was chasing a lifestyle, and I decided to step back from it to try to chase something else. And I managed to get it back after, and I managed to build something where I earned way more money than I used to earn when I was in London. And and also in the last couple of years, I think in this economy, a lot of brands are not spending a lot of money. And I think last year I had no income for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, we do see, you know, the economy and what's happening. And I think a big thing being an entrepreneur, a business owner, is figuring out, you know, where to pivot, where to change. And if you see something like that, like coming or happening, kind of what can we do to pivot? And I don't know, at least for me, I think that I try to really trust my intuition, right? So trusting intuition And obviously, along with the data, and just not being like so rigid with like certain things of like trusting intuition in the universe and like things are going to happen as they should, as long as we're working with intention and purpose. I think that's the big thing. And that's one thing that you have excelled at, is working within your purpose and passion and having intention.
Yes. And also realizing that I think a thing that people don't know is that being an influencer, it's not a job. It's not a career. Being an influencer is an asset. So let's say you own a building, it's a great asset for your company. Having followers is a great asset for a company. But it's not a job per se. Yes, you're going to get jobs here and there, but you will not retire on this. You will not build a future unless you have millions and millions of followers and incredible contract. But even then, you need to invest it in real estate. You need to do something with it. So I think there's also the expectation of like, oh, look at this girl. She has 1 million followers. She must be making a shit ton of money. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's not always
And
the
it's,
case.
again, if she's just living the lifestyle, then she's going to find herself at 60 being like, oh shit, I have a problem now.
Yes, we definitely run into that. And we've definitely, like in our business, seen where people have been savvy enough to realize that early on and like, okay, I need to invest this into real estate. There are certain things that I need to do, and they understand it. And, social media can be a double-edged sword. I'm sure that probably you felt it, and like I felt it too, like I want to go live my life, but I also feel like for my business and for what I'm doing to try to help people and help the world, you put stuff on social media, but it's not always real life, right?
It's not always real life. And also think about the fact that it's do you have 300,000 followers, then you're allowing 300,000 people to have an opinion on your life.
So true.
That's not easy. And you have to think that like, yeah, sometimes I post things, I'm like, shit, now I'm allowing 300,000 people to call me a fucking bitch. Or like to tell me that I'm wrong, or tell me that I don't look good, tell me I look this. And it's just, that's what internet do. They pick you apart. And you have to be really, really thick skinned. And it was really hard for me because when I was in high school, I was bullied very, very, very severely. And then I find myself in my adult life being like, shit, now I'm dealing with like people calling me names that I've never met. And it's like, it's hard to detach yourself from this and to be like, no, it's fine. And it's actually, Joe Rogan told me that. He was like, but think about the fact that you filled an arena with 300,000 people. Are you going to listen to the one idiot in the back screaming like, you a fucking bitch? You shouldn't, because 300,000 people showed up for you. So that's how you should see it. And I'm trying really hard, but yeah.
No, you're doing so great. And that's why like I really wanted to have you on the show, because you're so inspirational. And I think a lot of people need to hear, more like about your story and like being authentic to yourself. And the thing about it is, and like you and I know this, Valentine, like if you're doing well, you're going to have haters, right? There are going to be people that are going to try to tear you down, and that's just part of it. So like we commend you so much for, doing what's authentic to you and being such a presence, in this community. And the last thing I would want to leave off with is, what is the next step for you? Do you have anything? I think I saw you guys like building a house somewhere. Like, what's the next steps in your life?
Honestly, I don't know, because right now, especially right after having a baby, I'm trying to figure out what balance do I want to have in my life. And until I figure that out, I cannot make a proper plan, because if I'm pushing work, pushing, and trying to build an empire per se, I mean, not, anyways, it's then I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot of family life for that. And is that what I want? Or on the other hand, do I want my daughter to have access to anything she wants? So I also do want that, but then you cannot. So it's right now I'm at this stage of, what do I want for my family? What do I want for myself? What do I want for my relationship? And it's yeah. So once I figure that out, then I can.
Well, you know what? I can share with you one of our past guests, extremely successful, and what he did within his career is whenever he had his kids, he actually stepped back a little bit And I don't think it was like necessarily the easiest thing. And yeah, like they still like did things and they traveled, but he cut back. He wasn't making as much income, and he's a top producer. He did that for a period of time, and then he came back. He was still working, just like not quite as much. And then he came back even bigger and even better. And I just thought that was so amazing for him to share with the audience that we all go through different phases in life. And when you have kids, I don't have kids personally yet, but when you have children, you know, you don't get that time back. So I think that that's amazing, you know, take it in, soak it in. And we love seeing all the videos and photos with your family and the puppy, and you're just bringing smiles to us. So we love it.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, let's see. There's also a thing that women have that men don't have, and it's guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that men don't feel guilt, but when it comes to family and spend time with babies, I have a job in a couple of weeks. I'm going to have to leave for a week, and I'm being eaten alive by guilt that I have to leave.
Yeah.
But I want to.
Well, I think, you know, you're doing it the right way, and like one day at a time. And thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for tuning in to Finding Alignment. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe. I would love if you could leave me a review. And if there's anyone that you would like to hear from on the show, please let us know. Thanks for tuning in.